Let us pray. Oh God, I thank you for this day. I'm grateful for the technology and our ability to reach others through this medium of the internet. Now bless everything that we shall say and do in this interview today. And I just give you praise and glory for everything because you are so good to us. You just watch over us. You take care of us. And you promised never to leave us nor forsake us. So now I come to you in your presence, asking you to bless. Bless so that many people will hear this interview and they will be blessed. And so, Lord, I thank you. And in the name of Jesus, we give you all glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen. I'm with Dr. Booker T. Williams, and he's written a great book of poems from a soul. There are other books that he's going to talk about that he's written here. A native of Daytona Beach, attended public schools here in Miami and Daytona Beach, graduate of Mainland High School, Bethune-Cookman University, served 3 years in the Marine Corps, earned his doctoral degree in organizational leadership, and as you can see, he's a proud member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Dr. Williams, good to have you here with us.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you this on this book, Poems for the Soul. What was your inspiration for writing this book?
My inspiration was just things that I witnessed growing up as a child, various racial things that were happening in America. And it was just a way of expressing myself through words. I can't sing. I'm not an orator like you are and some of the other pastors. So my best way of relaying what I felt inside was through writing. And poetry was one that I could use to do that. And I just love expressing myself in that manner.
How old were you when you wrote your first poem, you think?
Ooh, I was old. I was in my 30s, 40s, something like that. When I was coming up, Pastor Gooden would have never thought this was something I would be doing.
Okay.
God put it in my spirit to write this poem, and I just started from there. And every time I would see something that triggered an emotion or a thought, I try to put it in words. If it was a particular topic, I try to bring words. And words to me are like notes to you in music. And
right.
It's like my way of playing music using words. And so I enjoy it. And I think one of the poems in there is called This Stuff in My Head.
Okay.
And that's mean I have to express all this stuff in my head. It won't let me rest if I don't express this stuff in my head. So that's basically it.
Now you've got one here in the book, and thank you for autographing it for me. I am the clay. I am the clay that was molded black. I am the sculpture from that clay that carried the world on its back. I am the creation from God above. I am the clay that was molded black. I am the minds of all times. I'm the creation that God also loves. I am the clay that was molded black. I'm the creation of the good heart and soul. I am the history that watched the world unfold. I am the clay that was thrown away. I am the clay that stood the hot heat of day. I am the clay that was molded black. I am the clay that is beautiful as can be. I am the clay that you refuse to see. I'm the clay that was molded black, brown, red, yellow, and white. Man. What was your inspiration for writing I Am the Clay?
Because we come from the clay. God made us man from the clay, and black men have always been degraded or made to feel less than, and that we aren't important, that we don't matter, our lives doesn't matter. We were treated, our ancestors were treated so barbaric, Pastor Gooden, that I just felt like we needed, it was something that came to me that we are proud people. We are amazing people. We were here long before America. And once we were brought here, we were treated as subservient, as less than. The Germans treated the Jews that way. They had a term called worthless, life unworthy of life. Leaven's worse than leavens. And that meant that they were useless eaters, that they didn't matter. And white America feels that way about us today. And it carries on. And so that's just my motivation, that's just in my heart, that the way we're treated in this country, Pastor Jackson, is unfathomable. It's just insane in my opinion.
It's because I look at it as privilege. As you know, we do have white members in our congregation, in our band. Good friend of mine who's I've known over 20 years, but he understands. He's a guitarist. He's white, but he understands the lay of the land. And none of those people are members, guitarists in the band, that we're not even talking to them because they don't fit on the radar. But those we're talking to, and I have to reference him, this evil, racist, demonic governor that we have. And he's finally hitting the bottom where other whites are being concerned, that he's setting himself up as a dictator. And you've written and given me a lot of research on Black history. From your notes, what do you want to share with us from your notes that you wrote for the interview?
Okay, first of all, Pastor Dan, I'd just like to discuss the hypocrisy of America.
Good place to start.
And like you're talking about Governor DeSantis, he's only a clone of Donald Trump. I refuse to call him President Trump. I can't make my mouth say that. And he's only open. I had to reference a pastor that you might know. His name was Pastor Matt King Carter.
Yes, I did know him well.
Pastor Carter preached a sermon, and he said that racism has only been converted in America. It was constrained. It had never been converted. And Donald Trump was the one that opened the gate.
Converted it.
He converted it. He let it be said it's okay to treat black people the way you used to. And they have taken that hook, line, and sinker, and that's their mantra now. They don't care. They're willing to do anything, and we're living in dangerous times. I mean, I think what happened with Margaret Arbery in Georgia, I thought that was a good thing. I mean, it's sad that you can't run and jog in a neighborhood without being shot down or wounded. And I can remember growing up right here in Daytona that Sam Sula was considered a sundown town. Meant that you couldn't be caught in Sam Sula at nighttime. A lot of people don't know that. It was listed in the book as a sundown town, just like there's another city over near Gainesville similar. It's that way today. You can't be caught in certain areas after dark as a black man in 2022, Pastor Gooden. And to me, like you in your sermon on Sunday, and you don't know how you hit home to me when you was talking about the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Well, I feel that same way about the national anthem.
I do too.
I feel that same way because people hear the first verse, but they don't know what the third verse talk about. And that's what some of my notes about. That during the War of 1812, when the British bombed Fort Henry, and Francis Scott Key, who was on Royal Navy ship because his friend was a doctor and they had been captured and were trying to get him free. He saw this flag still flying and he wrote this song. But he was a slave, his parents were slave owners. He wrote the song, and one of the verses that they don't sing, I like to kind of just share with you.
Go share it.
So people will know why Colin Kaepernick didn't stand for it and why I still don't. I go to the games and Bethune-Cookman played the national anthem better than anybody I heard in my life.
The band is awesome.
But I don't stand to it because of that. Where's the verse? I'm sorry.
Just take your time.
Okay. It says, no refuge could save the hirelings and slaves from the tears of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the Star-Spangled Banner triumph does wave. People don't realize when they say the hiring, during that time,
They talking about us.
the British would hire blacks that were free, and they would hire enslaved blacks. If they escaped and joined the British Navy, they would be given their freedom once the fighting was over. And so this is people he's talking about. He's talking about black people being hung, and not hung, he didn't use the word hung, but they were terror, they was going to be killed or whatever had been killed. And it's just a negative song. It's really negative. And he was, like I said, a slave owner himself. And he was the district attorney of Washington, D.C., and he pushed a lot of slave laws, making it,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so when you hear this, and the national anthem didn't become the national anthem for 100 years after the song was written. They wouldn't even let it be the national anthem because of this racist overtone after he wrote it. It just was recently adopted not too long. I forgot what year it was, but it hadn't been over 50 years ago. So, but these kind of things that I read about and I think about, and white as a race, Pastor Gooden, wasn't even a race till after the Bacon Rebellion. The Bacon Rebellion took place in 1676. And what happened was Nathaniel Bacon was the cousin of the Governor Berkeley of Maryland at the time. And they were fighting over who was going to control the land. So what Bacon did was got before it was, like I said, white as a race, you had indentured servants. They weren't called slaves. They were people that the British brought over to America, and they had to pay the British back by working. And they were called indentured servants, not slaves. They had indentured slaves as well. Then you had free blacks that came over as well. And poor whites, poor blacks, everybody worked together. So Bacon got them to rebel against the governor, and they burned down Jamestown, Virginia. And after the war, the little skirmish was over, the elites got together and said, we can't allow this to happen again. So what they did was gave the white indentured slaves and servants more privilege to vote, to own land, to do, and then this is what they're doing now. They've always used the divide and conquer method. And so that's what they did. And white became a legal word as the white race. White people weren't even in America when the first slaves came here. Whites went on in America for 60 years before slavery really took off. So these kind of things, when you talk about it, and like the book you told me to read by Robin DiAngelo, I read it, White Privilege. And I read that, Pastor, and it's what I got. It was like they said, and what's the name of the movie? Officer in the Gym, with Jack Nicholson said they can't handle the truth.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. They can't handle the truth. Critical race theory, same thing. They cannot handle the truth. They don't want their children to know how barbaric their ancestors were. So they don't want that in books.
Robin DiAngelo's book deals with why whites don't want to talk about racism.
Exactly.
They don't want to discuss it because they know that the door is open than for an investigation going back into the past. I said Sunday, when some of those ships, especially, there's a slave ship that sank near Key Largo, Florida, and they're working on excavation now, and they're finding things from the ship's manifest that was there. And one writer said, oh, this was a terrible accident. Another writer said, no, this is a crime scene.
Wow.
But all these bones down, and they've been excavating bones, and the bones they're bringing up now, they've done tested to show that these were Africans. Just the whole thing disappeared. It's gone. And all these folk, it is a crime scene. It should be yellow tape. Mm-hmm. In your book, The Ugly Color of Race in America continues. This is a book by Dr. Booker T. Williams, Jr. The Ugly Color of Race in America continues. And when we talk about privilege, that's what this is. With Trump, with DeSantis, as we know, it's privilege. It's control. Mm-hmm. And without the control, they cease to exist. Mm-hmm. And that's why laws are changed. If that new law, I think it's SB 148, if a white teaching this feels or feels that, come on, man. We're talking about true things. Mm-hmm. There was another poem that you had, Doc, that I looked at in this book, and it's called Crime. I want to share this with the audience. This is Dr. Booker T. Williams, Jr., his book, Poems from My Soul. And he'll tell you how you can get these books in just a moment. But it says crime. Crime is caused by something gone terribly wrong, because we have let things go on too long. Crime is caused by the lack of needing, wanting, power, pleasure, and the comforts of having. Crime is caused by the haves having and the have-nots wanting, watching and wishing, watching all the wealth traveling. The wealthy flaunting, taunting, causes crimes, while the poor keep suffering and wanting. Crime is caused by plain old greed, because greed is in some of our DNA need. The need to keep having and having, never sharing. You know, that's powerful. It sums up what you just said about crime. Was there anything else in your notes that you want to share on that subject of especially crime in America with our black boys? Okay. From slave ships to prison cells.
Right. There's a book that if you have a son, it's called Slavery by Another Name. And I don't have that with me, but it talks about the penal system and how we have our boys almost volunteering to be slaves again, because they had this nihilistic mindset. As a teacher in Miami and teaching young black boys, they didn't feel like they would live to be 20 years old. They say, Coach, the way stuff going on in these streets, I might not live to be 20. So they devalue their life, so they devalue others' lives. And what has happened, we have glamorized, money, like your sermon was the other day, the love of money.
Right.
They on TV, they throwing, make it rain and all that kind of stuff attracts them. That makes them, if this guy got big spinners on this car and the boom, they want the same thing, and they're willing to do whatever it is to do that. And they feel the quickest way to do it is by doing illegal things like drug dealing. My nephew, God bless his soul, he was murdered in the streets of Daytona a year ago. And,
I remember that.
And his thing to me was, if I'm not working at Burger King for no $2, $3 an hour, when I can make $300 an hour a day right here, if I go to jail to be killed, so be it. That was his mindset. That's a lot of young boys' mindset. And it comes back from slavery. We can say what we want to. If you ever read the Willie Lynch letter, Pastor?
No, I haven't.
You got to read the Willie Lynch letter. Willie Lynch told He came and did a speech in Jamestown, Virginia, and he was telling because all the plantation owners were killing their slaves for trying to escape and was hanging them. And when he came to America from the West Indies, he had a slave plantation. He said, I'm going to show you how to control your slaves. And you probably heard Denzel Washington, a couple of people say how took the strongest buck and put him in front of his family and children and tied a horse to one arm, horse to one leg on this side, horse, and then hit the horse, split him right in front of his family to destroy the male image. Make the boys weak, make the girls strong. And mothers seeing that always protected their little boys. Little boys, don't do this. The master to the master. So they had a thing called buck busting. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yes, I have.
Young black boys wear their pants below their, but they don't know that was a form of buck busting. If they wanted to degrade a male or whatever, they would do that to him, sodomize him, and that kind of stuff. To anything they could do to, make the black male less than what he was. And you see that same mindset today. Willie Lynch said that we pit the light skin against the dark skin, the young against the old, the mother against the daughter. Keep it that way, and they'll get it in their minds. And if you do it the right way, it'll last 1,000 years. You still see that Willie Lynch mindset in black people, Pastor Jackson. You got, Pastor Good, you got to read that, and it'll bless you.
In the Bible, in the book of Exodus, with Moses, and it starts out, Moses, because the Israelites were enslaved, Moses came through an era, and when Pharaoh decided he was going to kill the seed of the man, of the Israelites, from 2 years old on down, kill all the babies, kill them. That was to destroy the seed.
Yeah.
Because if you can infiltrate the seed of a race, you can annihilate and you can denigrate and you can just devastate that race. Because we all African Americans, but we got different skin hues and all of that. That comes from the master.
Exactly.
And what the master did during those particular times. And so when I think about that, even in Jesus' day, when Herod put out the decree to kill all the baby boys from 2 years old and down, and he wanted them in control. The same thing is going on with white privilege in America. If you can keep our boys out of the economic system, keep them out of anything with where they can make money and where they can be self-sufficient, you got them. That's why I say from slave ships to prison cells. And it's getting worse on that word. There was another poem in here I want to share. You've got one called 911 America. I thought that was really deep. 911 America, we need all your brilliant minds, movers and shakers, the power to be in the trauma wards of our neighborhoods. Can't you see? 911 America. We need to remove the cancers of hate and bigotry, injustice, poverty, misery, racism, excuses, plain old ignorance. 911 in America. There's still millions of us crying out in pain, praying, dying, trying. No one has showed up even still. At least give us a pain pill, hope. 911 in America. It's an emergency. What is your message behind that poem?
Basically what it's saying is that we still, in the country is in such an uproar with black-on black crime. Everybody, it seems like we're the targets. We're our own worst enemies sometimes. And I just think that we have people in the neighborhood that can, you do an excellent job. Miss Slater does an excellent job right here in our community. We need more people like yourself. But, we got a lot of black people that sit in the house and they won't come out because I ain't going out there dealing with that. I don't want to fool with them young boys. They'll kill you, man. But if we don't, You know, the neighborhood has been traumatized. Police killed somebody yesterday. I don't know what color he was.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like I said, the crime that we see. I flew up to Wilmington, Delaware to see my son a few months back. The little old lady was off the plane. She said Philadelphia was off the chain with the way they're killing each other in the streets of America. It's an emergency. And we need to get off our bus and get out there. We're back in the day, when we was coming up, an older gentleman came along or whatever, and we were doing, boy, you know your mama don't play that.
Put you in check.
Yeah, put you in check, and we listen. They'll do it today. It's just you can't go up there with no rah-rah like, you got to go and, hey, man, look, they call everybody now,
Yeah.
And they'll listen to you. I say, hey, man, I ain't trying to tell you what to do or how to live, but think before you do. I always try to tell them that think before you do. Is it worth going to jail for or losing your life for? My brother's son lost his life over foolishness,
And you know what, Doc? It seems it's almost a badge of honor among our boys
Exactly.
to want to go to jail. Like it's a badge of honor. Man, I can do 3 years standing on my head, but why do 3 years standing on your head? Why not do 3 years standing on your feet free? And it bothers me with the profile. If you know that you're being profiled, why look like the profile? Set yourself up, the dress and whatever. It's almost is as though they don't even fear death anymore.
No, they don't. They don't mind taking a life. And like you said, what they call it having street creds. Who's the toughest? So whoever wear their pants the lowest on, they the most gangster. That's how they would talk in school. And I'm a thug. I'm a goon out here in these streets. And like you said, and they glamorize that, Pastor Gooden. That's like, hey, he tough. Nobody don't bother him because he'll kill you, or he'll do this. So, kids, young boys think that's fascinating them for some reason. We were in love with athletes and that kind of stuff. They like rappers, and I have nothing against rappers. But if they rapping negative stuff about hurting people, I ain't for that. But there's some rappers that have good messages, there's rappers that have bad messages.
And your book, The Ugly Color of Race in America, you put a forward in here that says, in a country like America, built on the backs of diverse people, the subjects of race, racism, and its cancerous, masochistic climate renders certain races as ugly conditions. And that's a deep statement, because when we talk about the pledge and even the Constitution, where we all have certain inalienable rights, and the flag, liberty and justice for all. Those to me are statements that are the biggest lies ever told to black people in America. It is not liberty and justice for all. No way.
No way.
What's your take on the Pledge of Allegiance?
I have to back what you said. Who is the justice for? All you see in prison pretty much is just us.
Just us.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The inequities, man, it's just unfair if you got the same, like somebody was complaining the other day about a position that a man has went to school for and got his degree and whatever, and make somebody can walk off the street that's white and get that same job, make the same amount of money or not. That's not fair. That's not just. That's not equality. The things that we have to deal with. Like I said, I try, and I want to piggyback something you said. I don't paint all white folks with the same brush.
No.
You know,
I
you
don't
can't. That's so
because
ignorant to me.
you got some that will stand up.
Oh yeah, I don't do that. I wouldn't dare do that.
Oh no, not at
I
all.
wouldn't dare do that. But there are those that feel that they still feel that we belong to them. Some kind of way we was taken from them. You know, and we are their ancestors' property, and we don't have any rights. So the hypocrisy of the Constitution, of the Pledge of Allegiance to it's hypocritical to me, Pastor Good, and that's what you were preaching on Sunday, and I mean that's just struck home for me. You know, money, money, money. I know that back in the day we had a song called Backstabbers, the OJs, and then you had the
smile in your face.
And that's
all the time they want to take your place.
That's black folks.
Backstab.
Yeah, and then
backstab. Yeah, I remember
that. You remember Undisputed Truth?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, smiling faces tell lies sometimes.
Yes, smiling faces. Man, you talking about in this book, The Ugly Color of Race in America continues. You've got one chapter you call SCUP, SKUP. Stop killing us, please. Mm-hmm. And you started out by saying they shoot us down, they tase y'all. When we fall, we die. When we fall, you cry. We get kicked and stomped. You get embraced with your hands cuffed to your waist. Our day in court are us dying in the street. Your day in court is a suit and a tie. Our final verdict is a slab in a morgue. Your verdict is just a short stay from home, while my sentence is forever because I'm gone. The unfairness in sentencing, and I think this is what it's alluding to. Am I correct when I read this?
Yeah, that too, and not only that is that if a black person gets stopped in the streets, the likelihood of him getting shot is great. Whereas a white guy, just look at the church in South Carolina. This man went in a church and killed 9 people. They cleaned him up, went took him to Burger King and bought him a hamburger. You know, pattern. The same thing with the little boy that killed the people in not too long ago. You preached about that. Well, and to me, just the opposite happens to us. We get shot down. I mean, this girl laying in her bed, police no knock law come in and kill this innocent woman. You know,
that wrong address,
and all this kind of and that's what that basically is talking about. They get tased, we get killed. We go to court, we get life for the least little thing. They get a little pat on the back, a little probation. Don't be a good boy, don't do that no more, Jesse. But me and you, same crime, might get 50 years.
But a different time.
Look what happened in Jacksonville with the little girl, the young girl that killed her boyfriend in Jacksonville. You know beating her. And she killed her. She get 20-some years. White girl do the same thing, don't get no time. So you can't, it's just the hypocrisy back to what I'm saying is what troubles me more in America. Everybody in America know Donald Trump was wrong for this country, even white folk, even this mega crowd. But racism is so deep and so profound in this country is that they're willing to look over all of his inequities and say, hey, because he's preaching for us. He's our, it's like a term saying poor white folks say, well, I'm on the team. I might be poor, I might be on the bench, but I'm on the white team. So it's that divide. And they have what's called a birth dearth. I know if you ever heard of that.
No, explain that to us.
The birth dearth is a book, and I tried to price it, Pastor Good, and they want $200-something for the book. And what the book talks about is the number of babies white women are having as opposed to black and brown. And white women are not producing as many kids as black and brown, so they feel like the numbers are skewed and that it's becoming imbalanced. So this is where you get your great replacement theory from. they feel that they have this fear of one day being the minority, and the biggest fear is that what's happened to them, what they did to our people, we're going to do to them. That's why they sell guns like they do. That's why, that's why the weapons sales, they buy. I mean, if you go to the gun store right here in Daytona, it's full every day, Pastor Goody.
It was when I went and bought mine.
It's full every day.
Yeah, I am packing.
Yeah, I carry mine as well.
Yes, I am.
I don't go nowhere without it. I'm licensed.
I got 12. I'm licensed. I got my kit, concealed weapons carry permit, and I always got 12 children in my back pocket.
Yeah.
And they'll do and go where I want them to go.
Yeah.
All I got to do is point.
Yeah.
But the thing that it's really deep. What you're talking about is the racism and the covertness now, and has been overted till racism now. It's okay to be a racist, and before it was undercover.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's come out. It's okay because, and if we don't do something with the election coming up,
exactly.
All these elections coming up, we cannot vote these racist folk into office because you know what they're going to do. They're going to change the laws around.
Oh yeah.
Why do we have to be voted on to vote? For our voting privileges.
Right.
We're the only race, people who come in from other countries that we've fought. Mm-hmm. Vietnamese, Japanese, Chinese, all these folk come here, and Koreans. They don't have to go through that. Mm-hmm. But we've got to go through being evaluated every so many years for Congress passed an extension on the voting rights. That's purely racist.
Yeah.
Purely racist.
But like Einstein said, racism is a white disease. He called it a disease. Racism is a disease, and it is. It's a pandemic. We call the COVID virus a pandemic. Racism is a pandemic.
That's a super pandemic, racism.
Yeah, it is. And people don't want to talk about it. And that's what my book is to try to encourage people to sit down. And I personally have dialogue. Just like you and I sitting there, just think if we had a round table of people.
And had some whites at the table.
Everybody at the table talking about it, not pointing fingers and not trying to blame. Because there's enough blame to go around. I can blame black folks on a lot of stuff that we do wrong.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? But
yes,
we're
sir.
talking about racism right now. You against I don't know I never heard a black man say he go to sleep thinking about killing white folks. Or hating. I'm sure there's a lot of racist black folks.
Yes, they are.
You know, and some would say they got a legitimate reason to be that way. For some of the stuff that we've gone through. I'm finishing up a book called 400 Years of Barbarism in America. And some of the stuff in it, Pastor Gooden, would make you so angry.
Well, one picture you've got right here on the front, and I'm going to move it in front of the camera here. I don't know if you can see this well, but I'm going to move it in front of the camera a little better. And this book has a picture, Dr. Williams' book, and it says, "Whipped Peter's scared back exposed white Northerners to evidence of the oppression of slaves." This man's back is beaten so bad, and we'll put this up as one of our during the commercial breaks so that you can actually see this picture better. But this picture shows how bad our folk were beaten. Well, the beatings now are not all physically. We're talking about a mentality of our race now. And the beating goes on here. Mm-hmm. The psychological slavery that's going on now. Mm-hmm. For our boys are not expected to succeed. And when they do succeed, they have to, as I said before, twice as good and 3 times twice as great and 3 times as good to make this thing happen. And it's just a shame in this country, the land of the free and the home of the brave, in 2022, this still exists.
It still exists. I know you can remember probably when you was an athlete coming up, and your coach would probably tell you, Vic, you got to be 2 times better than the white boy.
Always did.
Always told us that when you got to be 2 times better than them. You know,
Always.
You could be the best player on the team, but if they little star athlete kid or whoever, you know you was better than him. But you had to, you might have to sit the bench and watch him play.
Super Negro.
Yeah.
And that's what's been required. The danger of this is that our boys don't understand what the consequences are for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And you very eloquently here in the book, The Ugly Color of Race in America, you set this thing in order when you talk about things like, and this was written before Black Lives Matter ever came out. Yeah. And you got a chapter 6, Black Lives Matter. Can you talk to us about your chapter 6 in this book on Black Lives Matter?
Well, my thing with Black Lives Matter was I was at doing bike week. They had some speakers down at one of the bike clubs down in Edgewater, and they were talking about they were upset about the Black Lives Matter group going on, and they asked me to speak. So when I got it, I don't think they liked what I said. And my thing is this: all lives do matter, Pastor Goodness. All lives
do matter. I agree 100%.
All lives matter. But all lives aren't being impacted like black lives in the streets. White boys don't have to worry about getting shot and walking down the street. They don't have to worry about if they go out. Their mom don't have to worry about is Junior coming home tonight. That's the difference. Our boys have to live in fear. They have to be, you have to tell your sons how to drive the car, make sure you're licensed. I've seen white boys cuss police out, threaten them. They don't do anything. If a black boy move wrong, he's shot. So they can't compare. Your all lives matter. Your white lives matter, but white lives aren't being impacted in a negative way like black lives are. That's the vast difference, So when you hear people saying, well, what is this black lives? I got the mask. It's this, we all matter.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about getting a phone call saying somebody done killed your child. That's got to be the worst feeling in the world. This little boy Trayvon Martin wouldn't bother anybody.
Not a soul.
Wouldn't bother anybody. Right over in Sanford, you can throw a rock to Sanford, Pastor Good.
Yes.
And this guy decided he wanted to be a vigilante and kill his child. That's somebody's child. A friend of mine a young lady that I was engaged to before I got married to Jennifer, she's in the wall right here, Trayvon Martin. I could walk right around the corner and see Trayvon Martin. You know what I mean? And for what? Can't nobody, why this boy lost his life for what? Because he had some Skittles and a drink. That's sad. That's so sad.
What's really sad is our justice system did nothing to George Zimmerman. And unjust laws like Stand Your Ground in Florida turns this into the OK Corral.
Exactly.
But the problem is the court system deciding when you can use the law and when you can't. Mm-hmm. So for a white person like Zimmerman, you can use the law. For a black person like me, you can't use the law. Mm-hmm. So laws are not set in place for justice. Mm-hmm. They're set in place for control. And to control us. Mm-hmm. And it just bothers me when we talk about lives mattering. Mm-hmm. Sure, I don't want to see a white person's child slaughtered for no reason. But on the same side, I don't want to see my child slaughtered for no reason. It's so bad that I heard D.L. Hewlett, the comedian, say that he told his son, say now, You going out into the jungle today? He said, now I want you to walk out. When you get to the end of the driveway, come back. He said, but that ain't that far. He said, but you black. He said, just for you to walk to the end of the driveway is dangerous.
Wow.
And that's sad in our country. Again, land of the free and home of the brave. Give you a good example here about economic slavery. If you're black, the interest rates on loans, and you know this, is always going to be higher.
I brought this for you. It's called the black tax, and they talk about exactly what you're talking about.
The cost of being black in America, the black tax. And I've got to get this book, The Black Tax, because the rates are different for everybody. I had a situation, a cousin of mine went into a car lot. He had the money to pay cash for the car. And they told him what they would sell it to him for and whatever. He got a white friend to go into the same car lot. This white friend needed financing. And the car was down, they marked it down so many thousands of dollars. And he needed to get financed and told him the deal was on. The cousin came back with the white friend to the owner of the dealership and said, now this is what's going on. Now the owner fired the salesperson off, said, I'll sell it to you for the same price. But why should we have to go through that?
Yeah.
To walk through a lion's den to get a meal.
Yeah.
And you are the meal in the lion's den, going through there. And what you talk about in the ugly color of racism in America talks about these kind of plights for our people.
Yeah. Like I said, I go back to what I said already, the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy, because we know the truth. We know the truth, Pastor Goodman. Everybody in the United States knows the truth, but they're willing to turn their face back to the truth, you know? And until we are willing to face it as a nation, we'll be spinning our wheels. We'll be saying this 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Somebody be sitting in a pulpit talking about racism because we're not doing anything about it. We're just talking about it. So our next thing, like I said, we need to, as a community, as a nation, have conversations about it monthly, weekly, like they have school board meetings.
Yeah.
We have the need to have the same kind of meetings about how we living in this country, how we're being treated, how can we change it, why we have to go through voting types of thing. You don't put other people through that. We've been here too long. We built this country. It's called a spade a spade. We built this country. You guys are rich off the back of our ancestors. You still are reaping from that. You know, what do you tell your children? They don't want their children to know the truth, so they come with it. Critical race theory. That's not what critical race theory is about. It's not about not teaching your children to hate themselves. We're not trying to teach it. We're teaching your children to know what your ancestors did was very wrong. And we shouldn't allow that to ever happen again. And following somebody like a Donald Trump, that kind of thing could happen again.
Yes, it can.
And so that's what we should be focused on. As a country, we just need to call it like it is. Quit hiding behind the truth. Tell the truth. Truth crushed earth will rise again. You know what I mean? A lie, gonna be exposed one day.
Yes, it will.
You know, you can tell your children all the lies in the world. So who is it? Shakespeare say, to thine own self be true.
That's what he said.
Pastor Goodman, I can lie to you. I can lie to the deacon. I can lie to the congregation. I can't lie to Booker T.
No.
You can't lie to Pastor Goodman. You can lie to me. You can lie to him. You can't lie to yourself. I'm just saying, you know, and that's how I feel about this country. Tell the truth. Our leaders stop hiding behind all this, you know, stuff with critical race theory and the great replacement theory and all that conspiracy stuff and false information that they put out there, and tell the truth. You know, Liz Cheney, her father was a staunch Republican. He hated Obama, but she was woman enough to stand up to Trump, and they hate her for it.
And I admire when whites stand like that to show that it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's not about, and sometimes it's beyond race because it's evil.
Evil.
That's what it is. People like Donald Trump, Governor DeSantis, these are evil people.
Yeah.
Evil. And it's about the mighty dollar. Slaves are here in America. We're here in America to farm the land, to get the cotton out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what slaves were for. The Indians weren't going to do it. And that's why, in this whole thing of slavery, is still about economics and privilege. And even today, it's about economics and privilege. There's a term that law enforcement use, and you know it, called containment and control. If you can keep all the black folk in a certain part of town, or in certain parts of town, you can keep this contained. But when we move into affluent neighborhoods, then the containment is broken. So now you have to reassess and redo the containment in a neighborhood. And so that even though you're black with money, you can still be harassed and stopped in a neighborhood that's not in the hood because of this kind of theory. And you talk about that in your book too. Talk in the last few minutes, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, you know, and I like what you're saying. I watched the movie Posse, and I'm going somewhere with this. The movie Posse was a Western.
Okay.
But at the end of the clip, it shows all the rundowns. And it says that blacks in America do not control not 1/2 or 1% of the wealth in America. So that says you can take your Oprah Winfrey's, your Jay-Z's, your Beyonce's, and all these millionaires.
All of them together.
All together. And they still don't control not 1/2 of all the wealth in this country. And that's why I kind of wrote the poem too about crime. So much money in this country. You know, I watched a thing the other day about the elite. I'm talking about the rich people, the billionaires. This man, some of these people got houses, $20 million house. One wall costs $1 million in one guy's house. Got yachts, man. And we around here, we scrounging like chicken for feed, but we trying to get the scraps. You know, like even Jay-Z and Oprah Winfrey, all their money is peanuts compared to some of these people in this country. They're billionaires, but their money is peanuts compared to the wealth in this country. And we have to stay over here and fight and kill and steal and rob each other and sell dope to try to make a few dollars. You know, and same with the neighborhoods. There's certain neighborhoods, when we were we couldn't even go to the beach. We had to go way to New Smyrna Beach. Right now, you can't.
Was that Bethune Beach?
It was Bethune Beach. You had to drive down. It was fun. We didn't know any better. But they had a riot in St. Augustine. Blacks tried to go to the beach and St. Augustine. They beat them down. You know? So I go back to the neighborhood. And white folks feel like if black people go and move in their neighborhood, the first thing they holler, they go to the neighborhood, the property value drop, everything. So they don't want us there. But they feel like we're going to destroy their neighborhood. In some cases, we do, pal.
I want to end our discussion talking about black on black. Some things we do bring on ourselves because we've got to be willing to invest more in ourselves and be willing to do things in a correct way. But at the same time, realize the odds that are against us. If a person won't take care of remember the Pinto cars? If a person can keep a Pinto up, how they gonna manage how are they gonna manage a Bentley? And what happens to us? I was reading an article the other day about Jewish wealth. We're more consumers than investors. And that's why these mom and pop shops, these Asian shops and Indian stores and all that in our community, they're making millions and millions off our folk because we're consumer minded, not investor minded. Most of our folk rent. They don't own property. When you own property, it's a difference.
Right.
So how do we work on, and I know this is another subject for another interview, but how do we work on mindset change for African American folk so that we don't be guilty of what they say we are or who they say we are?
That's great. That's one of the first things I wrote in the first book is mindsets. And see, we've had the slave mindsets from slavery. But you know, it hadn't always been that way though, Doc.
No, it has not.
I can remember Daytona, y'all call it Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. When we was coming up, it was the Avenue. There was so many black businesses on the Avenue. You talking about Tulsa, Wall Street. We had Tulsa right here in Daytona. But my grandmother, before she died, she told me, Junior boy, you know, about integration, it was a good thing and it was a bad thing.
I agree.
She said it was a good thing that now you can go to the movies, go blah, blah, blah. But what happened was we started taking our money out of the community, spending it in the other people's community. We let other people come in our community and, you know, we spend billions of dollars on stuff that we don't need, you know, right? They buy the crappiest stuff. We go right in there and buy it. And they put it right in the hood, and we, you know, they say it's $1. All they gotta say is $1. That's the line. When you get in there, it might be $1.25, but it got you in the door at $1. So that's the mindset. We need to start back buying property. That's one thing I don't like. I don't like Kanye West. So I ain't no big Kanye West, but he said black folks won't buy property.
Right.
We won't invest in property.
No.
You know,
and they're not making no new land.
Yeah, look at all the property around Daytona, vacant lots. Used to be houses. I can remember when Mr. So and them lived that night, it's just a vacant lot. Nobody, I don't know who owned it. The city probably owned it by what they call it when they take your property.
Eminent domain.
Yeah, the city takes all this stuff.
That's another a subject there.
But I just think that, like you said, we got to start working on mindsets, and it has to come out the pulpit. It has to come out the community. You know, we have to talk about it. We have to, we got to do a better job of teaching. And I'm gonna close with this. I think about the young black boys. When we was coming up, also we had vocations in school. We could go to shop. We could go to we had what else? They had
construction.
Construction. They had dry cleaning.
Yeah, carpentry and all of that.
All that. And they took that out to school. So everybody's not meant to be academics. Everybody don't want to go to grad school and be a doctor or this or that, and that's fine. But everybody got a gift, Pastor Good, and they can do it with their hands.
And they're worth something.
Yeah, and it's worth something. And you know, they could live a good life. You know, teach them, you know, give these young boys something to do besides being in the streets. I mean, I was a thug, I was a jit. I thought all that was cool, you know. I hung out. But one day the light went, hey, is this what you want to do with your life? This your legacy you want to leave your family? I ain't been out there selling no dope to nobody, giving poison to my people. They don't think like that. I'm
gonna close with this. The Apostle Paul said, when I was a child, I acted like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we got to do. Doc, thank you so much for spending the time. And you'll see here on New Life in Motion, Black History Edition. Thank you to Dr. Booker T. Williams, Jr. Peace out.
Thank you.